In 1999, on the summit of a volcano in Argentina, 6,739 meters above sea level, archaeologists found a girl. She was sitting upright, eyes closed, perfectly preserved. She had been there for 500 years. Her name was the Llullaillaco Maiden. She was 13 years old. And here is the part that changes everything. She was not a prisoner. She was not a slave. She was not punished. She was chosen. She was considered the most perfect girl in the entire Inca Empire. And that is exactly why she died. To understand what happened to her, we need to understand what the Inca Empire did every single year. The Inca Empire, called Tawantinsuyu, was the largest empire in the history of the Americas. At its peak, it stretched over 4,000 kilometers along the western coast of South America. And every year, officials of the emperor traveled to every corner of this vast empire, looking for children. Not any children. Perfect children. No scars, no birthmarks, no physical flaws of any kind. Girls between the ages of 8 and 10 who were considered the most beautiful in their entire region. These girls were called Aclla. In Quechua, the language of the Inca, this word means simply chosen. When an official pointed to your daughter and said she had been chosen, you did not refuse. You celebrated. Because having a daughter chosen by the Inca was considered one of the greatest honors a family could receive. The father was often given a title, given land, given power. And the daughter was taken to Cusco, the center of the world, the heart of the empire. In Cusco, the chosen girls were brought to a special place called the Acllahuasi, the house of the Cusco women. Inside these walls, their lives changed completely. They were taught by elder priestesses called Mama Cuna. They learned to weave the finest cloth in the entire empire, cloth so precious it was used only for religious ceremonies and royal gifts. They learned to brew chicha, a sacred corn beer used in every important ritual of Inca life. They were fed the best food available, given the finest clothing, treated with extraordinary care. From the outside, it looked like privilege. But they could never leave. The walls of the Acllahuasi were high. The rules were absolute. The chosen women were required to remain completely celibate. If any woman broke this rule, the punishment was death, buried alive. And every year, as the girls grew older and approached adulthood, a decision was made. Some would be given as wives to nobles and warriors who had served the emperor well. Some would remain as priestesses for life. And some, the most perfect of all, would be chosen again for something else entirely. The Inca called it Capacocha. It was the most sacred ritual in the entire empire. It happened when the emperor was crowned, when the emperor died, when a great disaster threatened the land, floods, earthquakes, droughts. The empire needed to communicate with the gods directly. And to do that, they needed to send a messenger, a perfect messenger. The chosen child, boy or girl, was brought to Cusco first. There, they were celebrated like royalty. They walked around the 4 great statues of the Creator, the Sun God, the Moon God, and the Thunder God. The emperor himself honored them. Then, the journey began. Priests and porters formed a great procession. They walked in perfectly straight lines, deviating for neither mountain nor ravine. The destination was always high. the highest peaks of the Andes. Mountains so tall they touched the clouds. Places the Inca believed were closest to the gods. The journey could take weeks, sometimes months. As they climbed higher, the air grew thinner. The cold became brutal. The chosen child was given coca leaves to chew, to help with the altitude, to calm the mind. They were given chicha to drink, more and more as they climbed. Scientists who later analyzed the hair of the Llullaillaco Maiden discovered something remarkable in the chemical record. In her final weeks, her consumption of coca and alcohol increased dramatically. She was being prepared, not through pain, not through fear, through a carefully managed process designed to make her feel at peace. When they finally reached the summit, a small stone shrine was prepared. The child was dressed in the finest clothing, surrounded by gold and silver figurines, given food and sacred objects. And then, in most cases, they were given more chicha, more coca, until they fell into a deep sleep, and the cold of the mountain did the rest. Scientists found that the Llullaillaco Maiden died peacefully. No signs of struggle, no signs of pain. The gentle expression on her face after 500 years suggested she felt nothing. She simply went to sleep and became a god. In 1995, archaeologist Johann Reinhardt was climbing Mount Ampato in Peru. He found a bundle rolling down the slope. Inside, a girl, perfectly preserved by the mountain cold for over 500 years. She became known as Juanita, or the Ice Maiden of Ampato. She was approximately 14 years old. 4 years later, on Llullaillaco, 3 more children were found. The 13-year-old maiden, a 7-year-old boy, a 6-year-old girl called Lightning Girl, because her mummy showed signs of being struck by lightning sometime after her burial. In total, archaeologists have identified over 100 Inca ritual sites on mountain peaks across the Andes. At many of them, the remains of Capacocha children have been found, each one perfectly preserved, each one surrounded by precious offerings, each one dressed as royalty. The scientific analysis of their hair told scientists exactly what they ate in their final months. Their diet improved dramatically as the ceremony approached. More meat, more maize, more elite food. They were being elevated in status and body before their final journey. It would be easy to look at the Capacocha ceremony and feel only horror. But the Inca did not see it that way. For them, death was not an ending. The Capacocha children did not disappear. They became permanent residents of the mountain peaks, divine intermediaries between the human world and the world of the gods. Their families gained status and honor. Their communities gained divine protection. The chosen child became something beyond human. Juanita, the Ice Maiden of Ampato, was so revered after her death that her community consulted her as an oracle for generations. The Inca did not believe they were taking something from these children. They believed they were giving them eternity. Whether that justifies what was done is a question each viewer must answer for themselves. But what is beyond question is that these children were real. They had families who loved them. They had names. They had lives, however brief. And today, their faces are still visible. preserved by the cold of the Andes for 5 centuries. Still watching, still waiting, still chosen. The Llullaillaco Maiden can be seen today at the Museum of High-Altitude Archaeology in Salta, Argentina. She sits exactly as she was found, upright, eyes closed, at peace. 500 years later, she is still the most perfectly preserved Inca mummy ever discovered. And every person who sees her face understands immediately that history is not just dates and facts. It is real people with real stories that deserve to be remembered. If this story moved you, subscribe, because there are thousands more waiting to be told.